Today, I want to mention a topic that I've touched on before, but it's an important one worth talking about from time to time. And that topic is comparing ourselves with others. Comparing ourselves with others is something that I think most of us do now and again. And it's not always a negative thing. Sometimes we're just looking to see what it is that we may be doing well or where we may need to seek to do better. But comparing ourselves to others often does become negative. And the reason is that when we compare, we tend to start to compete. And social media is a real trap when it comes to comparing and competing. First of all, because most people tend to only post the highlights of their lives on social media, not the hard stuff, not the bad stuff. And we forget that. We can end up comparing our real life to someone else's highlight reel. Another thing is that many people on social media kind of embellish their lives, make it look a little better than it is, or some even make up things to impress others. And we can forget that too and end up comparing our real life to an embellished version of someone else's or even a false version of someone else's life. But whether it's on social media or not, comparing and competing with others is always a losing game. Largely because the hard truth is that there will almost always be someone who is smarter or stronger or richer. So when we compete and compare, we almost always lose eventually. And even if there are those moments when we happen to win, I think we've really lost anyways, because we're not actually taking joy in our accomplishments. We're really being prideful about who we're better than, and that is not a good thing. Theodore Roosevelt wrote that comparison is the thief of joy, and I think he was absolutely right. So for all of these reasons and more, playing the comparing and competing game is not God's desire for us. In Galatians 6, verses 4 and 5, the Apostle Paul writes this. He says, "Each one should test their own actions, then they can take pride in themselves alone, without comparing themselves to someone else, and each should carry their own load." Well, in this passage, Paul is primarily talking about doing good in the world, but what he says really can apply to our whole lives. And what he says is really do your thing, live your life, seek to do good and to do it with good motives. And then, if you've done that, you can take a healthy kind of pride in what you're doing and not worry about other people. No comparing, no competing. And as we do this, really our greatest goal should always be to please God. Because if what we've done pleases God, then we truly have won. And that should actually be the most important thing to us. Now, some people have put it this way, that we ought to live for an audience of one, for Jesus alone. So let's seek to do that. Let's seek to give up comparing and competing with others as much as we can, and to seek to live for an audience of one.